Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something really fascinating. We have this stack of source material, fundamentally spiritual, but it's presented almost like a technical manual.
That's a good way to put it.
It promises basically a blueprint for ease and success in pretty much every part of life. Work, family, internal peace, you name it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the sources we're drawing from, based on Ustadz Adi Hidayat's lecture, they really zero in on something that kind of turns conventional ideas about productivity and even spirituality on their head.
Okay, what's the core idea?
The claim is pretty radical. It says that the solutions to, well, all human problems aren't just found by, strategizing externally or working harder in the usual sense. They're specifically accessed through the intentional practice of two core Islamic pillars. First, formal worship salat, prayer. And second, actively using the Qur'an as like a complete instruction manual for life.
Right, so not just a holy book to be respected, but an actual guide to use day to day.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to pull out the practical stuff, the actionable wisdom from these, deep theological ideas. And the hook, right at the start, it's really powerful. The source says the solution to all of life's issues could be a project failing, a big family argument, maybe even just being stuck in awful traffic. The solution is sought and actually delivered through prayer, salat.
Yeah.
And the reason we miss this, apparently, is because we often treat salat as just, a routine, a formality, not as the specific direct channel, the wasila, that was set up precisely for asking for help.
It completely changes the game, doesn't it? It's the difference between just doing your duty for the Creator and actually sort of collaborating with the Creator, using the direct problem-solving line he explicitly gave us.
Okay.
But, to really appreciate the solution, the source material says we first need to understand the problem itself, or rather the purpose of the problem.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Section 1, the reality of challenges. Why they're inevitable if you're aiming for any kind of success. Because the source, right off the bat, it just throws out this idea of instant success. The myth that if you're good, life should just be smooth sailing.
Yeah, that gets debunked immediately. This whole principle, it's rooted very deeply in the Quran. Specifically, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 214, Hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah.
What does that mean, essentially?
Well, it's basically asking, do you really think you can achieve success or, enter paradise without going through the kinds of tests and hardships that people before you faced?
Okay. So struggle is baked in.
Exactly. The message is crystal clear. Success isn't instant. It demands real effort. There's competition, there's friction, resistance. It's part of the process.
And the source goes into the word itself, Jannah, paradise or garden. There's a linguistic link there.
A fascinating one, yeah. It points to the Arabic root, JNN. This root inherently means something hidden, something veiled, not immediately obvious, like the word jinn, the unseen beings, or janin, the fetus, hidden in the womb, not yet visible. So the ultimate success, Jannah, it's presented as a hidden outcome, something you don't see until after the struggle.
That makes sense.
And the source connects this to, historical Arab context. What was the symbol of ultimate success in the desert? A lush garden. An orchard with grapes, apples, rivers.
Which would be incredibly rare, hard to create.
Precisely. Rare, difficult, literally hidden from view compared to, say, dates and camels, which were common. So success isn't the everyday thing. It's the extraordinary result of extraordinary effort.
That really hits differently in today's world, doesn't it? Where everything's about instant gratification, the viral hit, the overnight success.
Right. We're trained to expect visible, immediate payoff.
But this is saying, no, your real lasting success, your personal Jannah, it's the hidden result of the struggle. You only get there after putting in the work.
And because this struggle is, mandatory, the source actually gives us a kind of classification system for the hardships we'll face. The different kinds of effort and pain, called matadimul basa. It's not just feeling stressed, it's structured.
Okay, so there are levels to this struggle. What's the first one?
The first level is called basan, a basan. Think of this as light challenges, minor friction.
Like what kind of friction?
It's the struggle for consistency, mostly. You're trying to focus on something important, maybe your worship, maybe a work project, and there's that nagging distraction, the urge to check your phone, or maybe just like light rain, a Cincy renting shower, the source calls it, or a bit of traffic that messes up your schedule when you're trying to get somewhere important, like a job interview.
Annoying, but manageable if you're committed.
Exactly. Annoying, but you can push past it if you're serious.
Okay, what's level 2?
Level 2 ramps it up. This is daro or darun. These are medium challenges, often physical, involving real setbacks.
So more than just distraction.
Oh yeah, we're talking about your project getting rejected after months of work, a financial hit to your business, maybe facing actual injustice, like somebody else taking credit for what you did.
That sounds tough.
It is. The source uses the example of Hajar, running frantically between Safa and Marwa, searching for water, putting in huge effort, seeing no immediate result, but she keeps going. That's daro. It demands resilience.
Wow. Okay, so that's the medium level. What's the peak?
The highest level, the peak challenge, is zilzal.
Which means?
Literally, earthquake. These are the trials that shake the heart. This is deep, personal, existential struggle. You feel completely overwhelmed. It's the point where you might echo that question from past prophets and successful people. Mata Nasrullah.
Meaning, when will help come? When will this end?
Precisely. That feeling of, how much more can I take?
But here's the twist, right? Reaching zilzal isn't seen as failure.
Absolutely not. This is a crucial reframing in the source material. Reaching zilzal is interpreted as the opposite of failure. It's seen as confirmation that you're being prepared for something great, a high position, a significant achievement.
So the intensity of the test reflects your capacity?
That's exactly the insight. If you're being tested at the zilzal level, it means you have immense potential. Great people, the source argues, simply aren't tested with small trials. It's actually a validation of your strength.
That's a powerful way to look at suffering.
It is. And the underlying message across all 3 levels, basun, daro, zilzal, is that every bit of effort, every drop of sweat, every moment of patience, it has to yield a benefit that comes back to you. Nothing is wasted in that pursuit of Jannah.
Okay. So we understand the struggle is necessary, it has levels, and it's ultimately for our benefit.
Right. And knowing you have the capacity to handle it, even the zilzal level, that leads us directly to the solution mechanism, the divinely appointed way to turn these trials into triumphs.
Which brings us back to salat, prayer.
Exactly. Section 2. Salat as the wasila, the means for getting solutions. The source emphasizes that the fundamental difference between the creator, the khaliq, and us, the creation, the makhluk, is expressed through ibadah worship. And the pinnacle of that is salat.
And this isn't a new thing, right? It's foundational.
Absolute foundational. The source cites Surah Taha, verse 14, Allah telling Moses, Innani anallahu la ilaha illa ana fabudni wa aqimi salata li dhikri. Basically, I am Allah, there is no God but me, so worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance.
And it wasn't just for Moses.
No. The source stresses its universality. It was commanded to all the major prophets, Moses, Jesus, Ishmael. It confirms salat is a core practice across the board.
And the frequency 5 times a day, that's significant too.
Hugely significant. It's designed as a daily test, a check-in. It's spaced throughout our day between waking, working, resting, sleeping. Why? To measure the vibration of faith, iman, within us.
How does that work? How does it measure faith?
Well, the source points to Surah Al-Anfal, verse 2. It describes the truly faithful as those whose hearts tremble wajalat kubuhum when Allah's name is mentioned.
Ah, so it's an internal response.
Yes. If your faith is active, genuinely vibrating, then hearing the adhan, the call to prayer, shouldn't feel like an interruption or a chore. It should trigger an immediate, almost excited internal reaction, like Allahu Akbar, it's already time for prayer, I need to connect.
Okay, now here's the part you mentioned earlier, the big shift, the underused potential.
This is it. The source is really insistent on this point. Salat is the only act of worship that the Quran explicitly mentions as the direct wasila, the direct means or channel to request solutions to your problems.
So it's not just remembering God, it's the designated problem-solving hotline.
That's a good analogy. It's the mechanism specifically provided for asking for help, not just a ritual.
And there's a specific instruction for how to use it when facing problems.
Crystal clear instruction and very logical. It's in Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 45 and 46. Wasta'inu bi sabri was ṣalāh. Seek help through patience and prayer.
Okay, break that down. How does that work practically? Say, I'm facing a huge deadline or a family issue.
The source outlines 3 steps based on that verse. Step 1, wasta'inu, seek help. Meaning, when the problem hits, your first move shouldn't be complaining to friends or venting on social media or just feeling overwhelmed. The immediate instruction is, ask the Creator. Go directly to the source of solutions.
Okay, direct request. Step 2.
Step 2, be sabri, through patience. And this is key. It's not passive patience. It's not just sitting back and waiting.
What is it then?
It's active acceptance. You accept the reality of the problem while remembering that core principle. Allah doesn't test you beyond your capacity. That's from Surah Al-Baqarah 286.
Right, the zilzal principle again. Yeah. If I have the test, I can handle it.
Exactly. So patience here is the spiritual act of acknowledging, okay, this is happening, it's for me, and I am capable of dealing with it. It's preparing yourself spiritually to receive the solution. It's confirming you're ready.
That makes patience sound much more dynamic, like getting ready for action.
It is. It's spiritual mobilization, as you said. And only then, after that active acceptance, comes step 3, was ṣalāh and prayer.
So patience first, then prayer.
Yes. You actively accept the trial with patience, confirming your readiness and capability. Then you stand up to pray and make the specific request for the solution. The spiritual discipline has to come first to unlock the mechanism.
Okay, so you've accepted the problem with patience. You stand for ṣalāh. Now what? How does the asking actually happen within the prayer?
Right. This brings us to the critical moment, section 3, the moment of request. Remember, the general command was wastenu, seek help, command form. Inside the prayer, this transforms into the personal request form, nastinu, seek help.
And where does that happen?
It happens in the absolute core of the prayer, the opening chapter, Surah Al-Fatiha, which we recite in every single unit of prayer.
Iyaka nabudu wa iyaka nasta'in.
Exactly. Only you do we worship, and only you do we seek help. The source breaks this down beautifully. When you say Iyaka na'budu, you are confirming, yes, I am fulfilling the command to worship you. I am standing here in salat.
You're acknowledging the first part of the relationship.
Precisely. And then immediately you follow with wa iyaka nasta'in. And this is the declaration. And because I am your worshiper, I have a problem. And I am asking you, and only you, for the solution right now.
Wow. So that line is the actual transaction point.
It initiates a divine contract. The source highlights a specific hadith qudsi, a direct statement from Allah, relayed by the Prophet. According to this hadith, when a servant correctly recites Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in rest in their prayer, Allah responds immediately, saying, this is a covenant between me and my servant.
A deal, basically.
A deal, a promise,
Yeah.
and wali abdi masara, which means my servant will get whatever he asks for.
Whatever they ask for at that very moment.
That's the promise. The solution is guaranteed at the moment the request, nasta'in, directly followed the confirmation worship, na'budu.
Okay, but how we ask must matter, right? You mentioned adab, the etiquette of prayer, earlier. How does that apply here, especially if I have a very specific problem, like, say, needing funding for my business or passing an exam?
Crucial point. The adab is about tailoring the request. You don't just make a generic request. You use the appropriate divine name, one of the Asmaul Husna, that fits the specific need.
Can you give an example?
The source uses the perfect example, the story of Prophet Zechariah from Surah Al-Imran, verses 38 and 39.
Let's really get into that story. What was his situation?
His situation was, from a human perspective, impossible. He was very old. His wife was barren and well beyond menopause. Medically, scientifically, conceiving a child was completely off the table.
Impossible.
Impossible. Yet what did he pray for? A pure offspring. Duriyatan tayyiba. But notice how he asked. He didn't just say, oh God, give me a child.
What did he do?
He used the specific divine name that matched the impossible nature of his request. He invoked Al-Wahhab, the giver of gifts, the one who gives without limits, beyond yeski. He said, Rabbi Habli, my Lord, grant me from your limitless bounty.
So he matched the name to the need.
Exactly. That's the adab. If you need sustenance, you might invoke Ya Razak, O provider. If you're facing a difficult exam or need clarity for a decision, you invoke Ya Alim, O all-knowing. It shows focus, respect, and understanding of who you're asking.
And the result for Zechariah?
Astonishing. The source emphasizes this critical detail. The angel came with the good news, the confirmation that he would have a son, Yahya, while Zechariah was still standing in prayer.
While he was still praying, before he even finished.
Before he even finished the prayer, the answer, the confirmation of the solution, arrived during the act of asking, specifically during that standing portion where Al-Fatiha is recited.
That's incredible speed.
It tells us everything about the potential immediacy of the divine response when the request is made correctly with the right adab at that specific nasta'in moment.
And you mentioned we, as the community of Prophet Muhammad, have an even greater privilege.
Even more so. The source points out, Zechariah had to initiate the prayer first, then make his request. For us, the understanding is that Allah's attention is already there, waiting before we even start. It's like he's prompting us, what do you need? I'm listening.
Which makes it even more profound if we don't use that opportunity, if we just rush through Salat without that focused asking.
Exactly. It highlights how incredibly underutilized this direct line is if we treat it merely as a ritual obligation instead of a powerful, personalized, transactional request for divine intervention and solutions.
Okay, so Salat is the mechanism for getting immediate help. What's the other pillar the source mentioned?
The other pillar is the Qur'an itself, Section 4. The Qur'an as Hudan, the life guidance. The source is very clear. The Qur'an isn't just a text for recitation or reflection, although it is that too. It's presented as the comprehensive, all-encompassing operating manual for human life. Hudan, the guidance.
An operating manual, I like that.
And there's a fundamental promise tied to following this manual. It goes way back to the time of Adam's descent to earth. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 38, promises that whoever follows this guidance, this Hudan,
Yes.
they will live with falakafun, no fear, no restlessness, no anxiety about the future, walahum yazanun, and no sorrow, no grief, no sadness about the past.
Wow. So peace and joy are conditional on following the manual.
That's the direct implication the source draws. If you find yourself constantly sad or anxious or restless, the source suggests the diagnostic is simple. You're likely not following the instructions in the operating manual properly. You're off script somewhere.
And this manual, unlike previous ones, is universal.
Yes, that's a key distinction. Scriptures like the Torah or the Gospel were guidance primarily for specific communities, like the children of Israel. But the Qur'an is explicitly described as Hudan Lina's guidance for all humanity. That's Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185.
Which means it has to be relevant for everyone, everywhere, until the end of time.
Exactly. Its scope has to be universal and timeless. And to really appreciate that scope, we need to look at the specific examples the source provides. It's not just vague principles. It gets incredibly detailed.
Okay, give us some examples. How detailed does it get?
Well, it covers literally womb to tomb. For instance, prenatal care. The source mentions guidance on managing pregnancy, health during pregnancy, even preparing for labor. Specific verses are referenced for these stages.
Seriously, prenatal guidance.
Yes. Then move on to childhood education. There are instructions on breastfeeding duration, like in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 233. But more deeply, the source pulls out 4 key pillars of early education from Surah Luqman, verses 13 to 19.
What are those 4 pillars?
They are: 1, connecting the child firmly to God. 2, teaching obedience and kindness to parents. 3, ensuring good social interaction and manners. And 4, instilling perseverance in doing good, even when it's hard.
That sounds like a pretty solid parenting framework.
Thousands of years old and still perfectly relevant for navigating, modern challenges like screen time or social pressures.
Okay, what else?
Seeking knowledge, how to study effectively, the importance of choosing a good learning environment. Verses about dedicating time for deep learning, about raising ranks through knowledge.
Right, makes sense.
Then there's marriage and family, huge area. Guidance on how to choose a partner, the concept of ta'aruf, getting to know someone properly. Specifics on the dowry, Surah An-Nisa, verse 4 says, give it willingly, as a gift.
And crucially, managing conflict, because that happens in every family.
Absolutely. There's guidance on maintaining peace and affection, like in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 21. And there are detailed steps for managing serious disagreements, even involving mediation, if needed, like in Surah An-Nisa, verses 34-35. It's practically a conflict resolution guide.
That's incredibly practical. What about work? The daily grind.
Yes, work and sustenance or risk. This is massive. The Qur'an assures believers their provision is decreed, like in Surah At-Thariyat, verse 22. It gives instructions on how to seek livelihood ethically.
And warnings, too, presumably.
Big warnings against theft, consuming wealth unjustly, or giving in to the fear of poverty, which can lead to unethical actions. Eat from the good, lawful things provided. That's in Al-Baqarah 168 and 172.
Now, there's often a tension, isn't there, between, working really hard for your sustenance and trusting that it will just come from God. How does the source address that?
Yes. This is where that wonderful anecdote about Imam Shafi and his teacher, Imam Malik, comes in. It illustrates this perfectly.
Okay, tell us that story.
So Imam Shafi was a brilliant scholar, very practical. He believed strongly that you had to actively work for your risk. You had to go out, put in the effort. So he went out, worked in a vineyard, harvested grapes himself. That was his proof of concept.
He earned his sustenance through labor.
Right. His teacher, Imam Malik, equally brilliant, but perhaps more focused on deep piety and reliance on Allah. He held the view that sometimes risk could come without that same level of physical exertion, purely due to one's piety and trust.
So what happened with him?
While Imam Shafi'i was out working for his grapes, Imam Malik was simply thinking about wanting some grapes. And what happened? Someone knocked on his door and delivered a bunch of grapes to him.
Without him working for them in the same way.
Exactly. Now, the source explains this isn't a contradiction. It's not saying one was right and the other wrong. It illustrates that there are multiple pathways. The source mentions 8 types of sustenance described in the tradition.
8 types?
Yes. Imam Shafi'i exemplified the path of active seeking, the physical effort, sometimes called kasb. You go out and earn it. Imam Malik exemplified a different path, sometimes called khairu kaz, where one's high level of piety and reliance, tawakkul, actually attracts the provision. The physical effort is bypassed because the spiritual connection is so strong.
That's really important for listeners, I think, whether you're grinding away at a startup or focusing on spiritual development.
It validates both. The Quran supports the hard work, the hustle, the Shafi'i way, but it also confirms that increasing your taqwa, your God consciousness, can literally open doors of provision you didn't even knock on. Surah At-Talaq verses 2-3 talk about this provision from sources you never expected. Surah Al-Ra'd verse 96 also links blessings from heaven and earth to faith and piety.
So it covers both the practical effort and the spiritual dimension of sustenance.
Comprehensively.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. The blueprint covers death and the afterlife too.
How so?
Guidance on how to achieve a peaceful, content death. The Usu-i Wio Amadyasho, Ya Iyatuhan Nafsul Mutmina, state from Surah Al-Fajr. What happens immediately after death, in the grave, Barzakh martyrs being alive with their Lord, provided for, as mentioned in Surah Al-Imran.
And descriptions of the final destinations.
Detailed descriptions. Levels within Jannah, who gets to be with the prophets, the truthful, the martyrs, the righteous, as in Surah An-Nisa verse 69. And also levels within Jahannam, hell for instance, the hypocrites being in the lowest depths. Mentioned in Surah An-Nisa verse 140. It truly is a complete manual, beginning to end.
Okay. That's incredibly comprehensive. We have the manual Hudan and we have the direct line for help, Salat. But just having them isn't enough, right?
Yeah, not at all. That brings us to the final section, section 5. The method for activation, jihadu, seriousness.
Jihadu, what does that entail?
It means seriousness, dedication, real effort. It's the active ingredient needed to make the guidance and the prayer connection actually work in your life. It's the process that overcomes those trials we talked about, basun, daro, zilzal. The source connects this to Surah Al-Imran, verse 142, which questions expecting Jannah without striving. And this jadu has 3 key components.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is ijtihad. This means serious planning, meticulous strategizing, thinking things through properly before acting.
And how does this connect spiritually?
Beautiful connection here. The source links it directly to the very first prayer of the day, subuh or fajr.
The dawn prayer. How does that relate to planning?
The timing and the names are deliberate. Subuh comes from asba, which implies readiness, preparing for the day. And fajr means dawn, the emergence of light, often seen as a wave of positive energy and potential.
So starting the Islamic day with fajr prayer is like...
It's like starting your day by presenting your clear, thought-out plan, your ijtihad, to Allah, asking for ease and success in implementing it. If you skip fajr or do it mindlessly, it's like starting a major project without a plan or without checking in with the CEO.
And you mentioned positive and negative waves.
Yes, the fajr wave, that positive God-conscious impulse, linked to taqwa. This is constantly battling the fajr wave, the impulse towards wrongdoing or laziness, linked to the lower self, the nafs. This concept comes from Surah Ash-Shams, verses 7-8.
So ijtihad is the planning that helps the fajr wave win.
Exactly. It's the strategy that helps you follow the taqwa voice saying, stick to the plan, do the right thing, over the nafs voice saying, just cut corners, take the easy way out.
Okay, so planning is ijtihad. What's the second component of jihadu?
Second is jihad, execution, action, the actual physical struggle and effort needed to carry out the plan you made.
Now, jihad is a word that carries a lot of weight, often misunderstood.
Very often.
Yeah.
And the source makes a critical redefinition here. It moves jihad beyond the specific, limited context of military struggle, which itself has stretched rules, primarily defensive.
So what is jihad in this broader sense?
Seeking livelihood,
Yeah.
working to provide for your family. That effort is explicitly called jihad fi sabilillah, struggle in the path of Allah. Surah An-Nisa verse 34, which talks about men being protectors and maintainers, is links to this effort of providing.
So my daily work, if done with the right intention, is a form of jihad.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes this. An accountant crunching numbers, a teacher preparing lessons, a driver navigating traffic. If the intention is to provide halal sustenance, that effort is elevated to jihad.
What's the significance of that? Why redefine it that way?
The spiritual implications are huge. The source specifies, based on related narrations, that if someone sets out with the honest intention of working to provide for their family, every step they take counts as jihad. And here's the key detail. If they were to pass away while engaged in that struggle for lawful livelihood, they're considered to have died as a martyr, a shaheed.
Wow. That gives incredible value and sort of spiritual insurance to everyday work.
Immense value. It motivates you to see the profound spiritual weight in what might seem like mundane daily tasks. Every commute, every meeting, every hour of focused work done for the right reasons counts significantly.
Okay, that's jihad as execution. What's the third component? Ijtihad, jihad, and
mujahada. This is the internal struggle.
Internal. How so?
This is the fight against your own self. Against laziness, procrastination, doubt, fear, despair, all those internal obstacles that try to stop you from executing your plan, jihad, based on your strategy, jihad. It's overcoming the internal turmoil. The source connects this to Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 216, which talks about fighting being prescribed even if you dislike it.
This sounds like maybe the hardest part, the constant internal battle.
It often is the most relentless one. And the source provides a key perspective to help sustain this mujahada.
What's that perspective?
It's remembering that what you dislike, the struggle, the discipline, waking up early for Fajr, resisting temptation, it might actually be very good for you in the long run. And conversely, what you might desire, ease, comfort, avoiding difficulty, might actually be harmful.
Why is that distinction so important?
Because our vision is limited. We see the immediate discomfort, but we don't see the long-term benefit it's building. Allah sees the whole picture. The verse ends with, Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun, and Allah knows, well, you do not know.
So trusting that the struggle, even the zilzal level struggle, has a purpose beyond what I can see right now.
Exactly. That conviction fuels mujahada. It gives you the strength to push through the internal resistance, knowing that the difficulty is perfectly designed for the greater good or the higher station that awaits you.
Okay, so putting it all together.
Let's summarize this deep dive. We've seen that real success, Jana, isn't instant. It absolutely requires navigating tests, sometimes severe ones that shake the heart, the zilzal.
But those tests confirm our capacity.
Exactly. And the method for asking for help, for solutions, is direct and immediate. It's through salat, specifically at the Nestayn moment in Al-Fatiha, using the right adab or etiquette.
The personalized request.
Personalized request.
Yeah.
And the map for the entire journey, the operating manual, is the Quran Hudan. But none of this works passively. It needs activation through jihadu.
Seriousness, which involves ijtihad planning, jihad action execution, and mujahada, internal struggle.
That's the blueprint laid out in the source.
Which leads us to a final thought, something practical for you, the listener, to take away from this. How do you actually activate this Qur'anic guidance, the Hudan, in your life right now?
The key term the source uses is tilawah.
Which usually means recitation, right?
It can mean recitation, but here it's used more broadly. Reading, yes, but also understanding, reflecting, and most importantly, applying the Quran thematically based on your specific needs, your profession, your current challenges.
Thematically, not just reading from start to finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Treat it like the technical manual is described as. Use your current situation as the index. For example, the source suggests if you're a petroleum engineer dealing with exploration, maybe you should specifically study Surah At-Tur, which has thematic elements related to potential energy, fire, mountains. If you work in mining, perhaps focus your study on Surah Fatir, which mentions splitting the earth, different types of minerals.
So you use your profession or your problem as a lens to find relevant guidance.
Precisely. It makes the guidance immediately applicable. And the source suggests using tools that help with this thematic study, like classifications of hadith, such as Imam Bukhari's Sahih al-Bukhari.
How does that help?
Because Sahih al-Bukhari isn't organized chronologically. It's organized into 97 thematic books. There's a Kitabu Tijara, book of business trade, a Kitab ul-Ilm, book of knowledge, a Kitab ul-Umara, book of leadership. You can go directly to the theme relevant to your life and find specific guidance.
That makes the vastness of the tradition much more accessible and practical.
That's the idea. So the final encouragement for you is this. Pick one area, one major topic relevant to your life right now, your career, your family interactions, your finances, your spiritual consistency.
Just one focus area.
Just one to start, and begin your own focused applied tilawah. Read, understand, and actively look for the practical instructions related to that theme in the Quran and Sunnah. Make the divine blueprint work for you practically today.
A powerful call to action.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.